Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to take a look at the Winterblade Severn. This is the second production knife brought to us by Brian from Winterblade Co. And I gotta say, he brings the excitement back to the hobby for me. He's always coming up with either a new lock. He does all kinds of crazy stuff with magnets. The first design that we all know and love is the Factor. It's a smaller knife than the Severn, but it had that ting, and this one has a magnet actuated locking system. If you're not already following Brian Winters on Instagram, do yourself a favor, go follow him. He is a designing fool, and we're lucky that he's into knives, because we don't see this type of innovation as often as he brings it to us. So let's dive right into the Severn. The pre-order for the Severn opens tonight, November 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time at winterbladeco.com. I will have all necessary links down in the description. The Severn is a bigger knife than the Factor overall. So if the Factor was a little bit too small for you, so you passed on it, you might want to think about the Severn. Here's a shot, pivot to pivot, with the Factor and the Severn. Your Factor comes in at 7.75 inches long, so it's around 3/4 of an inch longer than the Factor. The Severn has a 3.25 inch blade, a Bowler M390 on this particular one. And they also have one variant with 14C28N with G10 scales. That's going to be your lightest of the bunch. And you can also get one aluminum and M390. And they have some special collector edition ones in Magna Cut with aluminum scales with this milling on the aluminum. So I'm not going to go through all those. I will have links down below. You can check them all out on his site. He has much better pictures than I can produce on this video. So like I said just a little while ago, if the Factor was a little bit too small for you as far as handle length goes, this one has a 4.6 inch handle, and it's around 0.35 inches longer than the Factor. So this should fit your large, extra large hands just fine, especially being that he has this large finger choil up here in the front. So shouldn't have any problems fitting pretty much any hand size. If I choke all the way up right here, I have a medium-sized hand. I still have a good bit of real estate hanging off in the back. Please just remember, if you go and follow my links and it's before 8 p.m. on November 22nd and it says sold out or you can't figure it out, that's because it hasn't started yet. Please wait. Make sure you're paying attention to that. 8 p.m. Eastern Time is whenever the pre-order goes live. If you do decide to get in on the pre-order, one benefit of the pre-order is you're guaranteed a Severn. Whenever he has extra stock left over, whenever those drop, those sell out in minutes, like very, very fast. So if you want to be guaranteed one, the pre-order is the way to go. There's going to be about a 6 to 7 month estimated lead time. Once the pre-order is closed, he's supposed to be keeping the pre-order open, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. And as soon as the pre-order closes, he will make the order, and then it'll be 6 to 7 months after that estimated time for delivery. The OEM for the Severn and the Factor both are Best Tech knives, and they do some very, very quality work with their OEM products. So this particular variant has an M390 sheep's foot blade, and this is not a Damascus. This is a laser etching, the Bacon M390. So it's supposed to look like Bacon Damascus. It is a stunning, stunning etching on there. You have this unique looking blade hole that's nice and long. And he always incorporates magnets somehow on his designs. The Factor, like I said, had the magnet actuated lock. This particular one doesn't have a magnet actuated lock. However, this thumb stud is reversible. As you can see, it's a single-sided thumb stud, but it's held on by a magnet. Let me show you this. So I'm just going to take a cheap Allen key. You can see how you can see on that side. You push that out. As you can see there, this little pin is, I guess, steel. That little magnet is pretty darn strong. You can pull it off. I can put it on, let's see, put it on this side. If you're a lefty, you drop the pin in there. That holds it from sliding left to right, because it's a pretty tight fitment in there. And now you have a thumb stud on the left side, but you still have that blade hole. So this thing is, when I say completely ambidextrous, it is 100% ambidextrous. And of course, for some reason, if you didn't like the way the stud looked, you could always leave it out. You'd have that hole there. It's an outstanding utility blade shape. It looks like a razor blade. You can easily get that tip down to do drag cuts, and it's nice and thin up here by the tip. So it's gonna be like a little scalpel going through materials. And if you needed to make very fine precision cuts, you could easily do that with this knife. There's no jimping, but I had no issues at all. Got a nice flat spot to sit your thumb up here. You do have a large forward finger choil. However, for me, I didn't use it at all during my testing, and you'll see that in just a second, just because it like pinches my finger in here. I would have loved to see this, either not go up so high and kind of go into the scales right here, so I could have grabbed it a lot easier. However, it can be used. If I would use it, I'd use it in this like little trigger grip right here. But it also doubles as a sharpening choil, so you're gonna have tons of life before it widens up back here. And hopefully, if you can see down the blade right here, you can kind of see how thin. Let me see if I can focus it in. You can see how very thin it is. It's around 17 to 18 thousandths behind the edge with a full flat ground blade. So this thing should perform very, very well. Let's find out. I must say, Best Tech did an excellent job at sharpening these. This thing came wicked sharp, and it is slicing so well. It's got that tall, flat grind, perfect blade shape for this type of stuff. Excellent utility blade shape. You're just gonna have to make sure if you're not choking up in that little, that large forward choil, you have to make sure you don't fall into that when you're cutting. If you choke back, I decided to choke back, I think, the entire test, and now we're going to test the ergos here. And I will say, I don't think this knife's meant for the heavier pushing. Sorry if you hear my dog, but it's a thinner scaled knife. I think the scales are like 0.43 or 0.44 thick. So while I can do this pretty easily, it's not bad or anything. Once I really started ramping up the pressure, it wasn't super comfortable because I was having to squeeze very hard to make sure it didn't spin in the hand, but definitely could get the job done. Like I said, I don't think many people could be doing this type of stuff anyway. I think the only real spot that gave me any kind of minor hot spot is where it comes up in the back of the handle, but not bad at all. So here I pulled it up onto this wooden block because it's got pretty close to a straight edge. So doing this on a flat surface is just not the funnest thing to do. And I have to say, this thing is performing very well. And I'm kind of interested to see how this laser etching will fare once we get done with all the testing, to see, does it hold up? I don't know. I've never had a fully laser etched blade like this before. I would think it's probably pretty resilient to like scratching and stuff, because just, I guess, depending on how deep the etch is onto the steel, but we'll see after this. Yeah, it's blasting through this. It's got a pretty good geometry. I think it's like 18 to 17 thousandths behind the edge. So yeah, it's performing really nice. I think I got through 95 cuts and then before I ran out of rope, and it still felt like it could have kept going. And in the pinch grip, this type of cutting, it was pretty comfortable. Even with the thinner handle, yeah, it had a good grip on it, and I was able to, put a pretty good bit of force down into the rope. Definitely not too bad. Doing utility cuts like this thing is going to shine. It was like a little scalpel up there, a little razor blade. It is so sharp right at this point, and you would think it would have kind of lost its steam after doing the sisal rope, but nope. All the material was pretty much like it wasn't even there. It was just blasting through it, no problem. And I was surprised when I got to the denim, still had a ton of bite to it. So yeah, this thing performed outstanding. Just like the Factor, felt pretty much the same. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. It has 4 means of deployment. You have thumb studs, you have this nice blade hole, you can use the axis bar to deploy it, and he has a little tab right here. This locking system is called his Stealth Lock. It's patent pending, and once again, it's innovative and genius. He says it's a compression spring-based stealth lock offering you the first ever bar lock and spine lock actuated together. So let me show you what I mean here. If you want to disengage that lock, you pull the crossbar lock just like a regular axis lock. Or you can pull back kind of like on the shark lock. You pull back and watch the thing. It's hooked to the bar and it pulls that back. So you can also actuate the lock like that as well. So this should be a pretty strong locking mechanism. And for the knife, it should be able to handle everything that you would probably do with this knife as long as you're not abusing the knife. It is riding on ceramic bearings and it's a pretty snappy action. You got that reverse flick works great. Thumb studs work great. You can slow roll it. I can use the crossbar, or I can use the top little lever right there. They all work really well. Now, I'm not sure if this issue is just with this knife, and I'm pretty sure it is because I haven't heard anybody else say anything about it. But the detent strength on this knife is not the best. It's not terrible. I can reliably flip it, and I don't think this would ever open in the pocket. I carried this a good bit since I've gotten it, and I had no issues. Let me show you the suck up on it. So not bad. It's about the same as I'd say maybe a Benchmade. So like I said, it functions excellent. If you're a fidgeter, this thing's a fidgeting dream. You can literally do it however you want. Very, very fidgety too, and very, very smooth drop shut action. Now let's take a look at the handle area. This particular one is in titanium with a green anodizing on it. Looks nice. It has black hardware throughout. His signature pivot there. T8 construction throughout, pocket clip and all. Excellent job. Love seeing that. It makes breaking down a knife like this so much easier, so you don't have to swap drivers, swap bits, or have two drivers at all times. Very, very, very nice to see. Your pocket clip, as you can see, that extra hole here is reversible. It comes with a milled titanium pocket clip, I think, with all the variations. And the one with the bacon etched, laser etch on it has the lasering on the pocket clip as well. Pocket clip functions excellently, goes in and out of the pocket nice. It has the perfect amount of spring, and it's not deep carry, but it sits fairly deep in the pocket. I know a lot of deep carry clips that sit way higher than this. You have flow through construction, one standoff. I kind of wish they would have went with just I don't know, an hourglass standoff. That looks like a parts bin standoff to me, but you know, whatever. He might offer backspacers as well. I'm not sure. And he has tons of internal weight relieving in there to try to bring down the weight as much as possible, because that is a pretty big blade and a thick chunk of titanium along with this locking mechanism, bringing the titanium weight to 132.9 grams or 4.687 ounces. Not bad. I have to say, it's pretty impressive that they nailed the balance point in this knife. Bestech is the king of balancing a knife out. And the reason that's important is because it makes the knife way more nimble in hand. So it feels lighter than it actually is. Your lockup on this thing, when I say it's got a very, very tight lockup, I can't muscle anything out of this one. No up and down, no left or right. It feels like a bank vault in there. Your crossbar lugs are just small little lugs there with a Torx on one side. They're comfortable, they're rounded, and they're not slippery or anything. And this little tab right here has some jimping to it, and it's not I would have maybe liked a little bit more texture to it, but I wouldn't want it like the shark lock, because that's a pretty sharp jimp. So I think I'm actually fine with that, because it doesn't take much just to put your finger down and push down on it to actuate that lock back. Now for some size comparisons, we have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, the Hogue Ritter RSK, and the Spyderco Smock. The Smock is pretty much identical in overall length. Two more great side references, the Kaiser Sheepdog and the Civivi Vision FG. All right, now for my nitpicking complaints. I talked about them already, and they're all really nitpicks because I love the knife, but instead of having this large forward finger choil, I think it would have been great to have it come to about right here and go into this handle some so you could get a full, grip. Right now I'm kind of wedged in between here and here, but I was fine back here, so it didn't really bother me any. During all my cutting, whenever I started bearing down into the wood really hard, I did notice it was a little bit uncomfortable right here in this transition point right there, but that's just because that's where my finger lands. However, I don't think many people are going to be doing that type of stuff with this type of knife, so is it really a big deal? And last, for this knife, the D10 is on the lighter side. Now, is it bad? No, it's not bad. I mean, look, I can still reliably flip it. It's super fidgety. I just think it could have been a little bit stronger. I don't think there's any way to like strengthen that or anything in here. I don't know. I'm guessing that it's done with Omega springs. I don't know how the spring system is in there. I should have probably taken it apart and checked it out. But like I said, I haven't heard the videos I watched on others because I want to make sure, it wasn't something that was going on with all the knives. I haven't heard anybody else talk about that. So it could just be on this one. And like I said, it's not, overly light to where I think it's dangerous or anything, but something I definitely had to mention that could possibly be better. But overall, my final thoughts on the knife, God, he nailed it again. After the Tingy Winterblade Factor, I did not think he could top this one. And boy, was I wrong. He doesn't stop, with the craziness of a magnetic locking system. Another super fidgety knife that has that beautiful ting to it. Has a patent pending locking system that he comes up with. So we are very lucky to have Brian in the knife community. He could have been into guns. He could have been into cars, anything else. But no, we are blessed to have him in the knife community. So that excites me. I can't wait to see what he does next. And for everybody who gets in on this pre-order, I think you're going to be a very happy person. I got to say, the etching held up very well. I mean, you can see like the rubbing. It pretty much held up about as good as, say, PVD coated blade or something. I don't know exactly how they did this etch. I don't know if that's PVD and then they etch. I don't know how it was done, but it held up nice. I got a few scratches. You can see right there. I cut up a lot of stuff with this even after the testing, so I think it did rather well. No major, scratches all the way down to the steel, just some surface scratches. So I definitely give that a pass. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Hey!